Thanks, Moots. My name is Jeff Cox. I have a new life in Christ. Struggles, recovering from heavy control beliefs, cynicism, anxiety that would come from that. Going to be going through a series on the book of Ecclesiastes. And so I'll just give you this as an introduction quickly. When I was a student pastor, probably 24 years old, there was a man named Dr. Lobdell. And he was a doctor twice. He had a PhD from Bob Jones University, and he had written his dissertation on Ecclesiastes. He was also an anesthesiologist. And I remember he would sit down, and he would teach me the book of Ecclesiastes and mentor me. I always honor him when I teach this book, but I'll give you something that just shows what a profound man he was and a man of character. He eventually died dementia. I don't know if it was Alzheimer's or not, but it was dementia. And I remember him being a medical professional. He sat down with his wife, and he said this, and he told me this story. Eventually, I won't know you, and you will not be able to care for me. And at that time, you need to put me in a facility. When that day comes, I will not want to go, and I will be very angry, and you will feel guilty. But I want you to remember on that day the conversation I had with you when I was in my right mind, and this is what you need to do. That was the man who mentored me in this. So as I go through this for the next few weeks, I can't even teach it without giving him honor, fair enough? As I go through this, this is probably one of the most memorable, best gifts I ever received. I got it for Christmas. I was probably 5th grade. Yes, I was born in 1967. That looks very familiar to what I got. That's how big the speakers were in my room. That is called a turntable, if you don't know. That is an amp and a receiver down below. I wanted the gift because I spent the night at a friend's house. And that friend introduced me to things. This isn't like sinful thing. Well, you might think it is, but don't judge me. He introduced me to Bachman Turner Overdrive. He introduced me to an album called The Grand Illusion. And I was like, oh, wow. And once again, this is not a recommendation. The things I say do not necessarily represent an abundant life, and I will not be held accountable. And an album called Let There Be Rock. And all I knew this, I wanted to listen to my music loud. And so I asked for this for Christmas, and I walked in one day, and this was the gift my parents gave me. Stereo, speakers, loud. And I say that, I want you to think about gifts as I go through this. And I don't know what your childhood was like, but I hope there's a time in your life where you think, I asked for something and I what? I got it. Just think of gift when we go through this. I've entitled this, Enjoy Your Life, which is the theme of the book of Ecclesiastes. What? Now, you have probably heard Ecclesiastes taught a lot of ways if you've been through church. Often it's taught as Solomon, old, he made a lot of mistakes, everything stinks, love God, keep his commandments. That's the whole theme of the book. Some people don't want it in the Bible because they consider it pessimistic. But I can see where they get the point. If you look at how the book starts, the words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. And I know there's a contrast here, but he starts off the book, vanities of vanities, says the preacher, vanities of vanities, all is vanity. Does it sound like a self-help, promotional, you can be the best you can be? It doesn't, does it? It just starts out, you might think, kind of depressing. In fact, I would call it this. Literally. And I think this is what church can be. To be honest, I think this is what region can be. Some of you are thinking, if I was enjoying my life, I wouldn't be in region. There's some problems. I love this, the walk of shame Charlie Brown has all the time. Just kind of depressed, sad. And sometimes you come to church and literally the message is, God's good, you're not, do better. Every week. And then some people actually kind of enjoy that kind of preaching. It's almost sadistic. It's like, beat me up some more. Tell me I'm a worm. Tell me I'm not worthy. You say, where do you get enjoy your life? And over the next few weeks, I'll take you through this, but quickly I'll show you this. This command is mentioned over and over and over in the book. This is the conclusion he comes to. So I'll just give you one instance of it, but basically, so I commend the enjoyment of life. Because there's nothing better for a person under the sun, I'll explain that, than to eat, drink, and be glad. The joy will accompany them in their toil all the days of their life. God has, what's the next word? Given, it's a gift, them under the sun. Hasama is the Hebrew word there for the enjoyment of life. So Solomon says, I look at all these things, and I'll show you those things in future weeks. You say, well, I know this is bad, and this didn't fulfill me. Yes, but he comes to a conclusion, and he says, I want you to enjoy your what? Life. So what's that word mean? Hasama, Hebrew. It's translated enjoyment, but it literally says gladness, or this is one of the meanings, festival. So I appreciate what Mood said. He's up here and we're all joking, we're having a good time, we're laughing. And he says, hey, we're supposed to be worshipful. And I love that because he's making fun. That is worship. It is. Okay? Meaning, are you seeing it like life's a party? Man, this sounds like this sounds like, I'll show you what it sounds like to you probably. I'm saying that is the Hebrew word, what it means. That is what Solomon is commanding. That is the conclusion he wants you to come to. So here's the contrast, and here's what we think. And this is very common. There's a philosophy or a theology or a religion called hedonism. The word hedonism comes from the ancient Greek for pleasure. And it would be the equivalent of, and you know people like this, I just want to live for what? Pleasure. That's not what Solomon's talking about. He wants you to enjoy your life, but that's not the goal. From a psychological or motivational hedonism claims that only pleasure or pain motivates us. Ethical or evaluative hedonism claims that only pleasure has worth or value, and only pain or displeasure has disvalue or the opposite of worth. If you live by that, basically it means, and that's all you believe, the only reason I would come to Regen is some things in my life aren't working out anymore. They could have been things that were pleasurable. They could have been things that once in my life were enjoyable, but they got to the point where they're not anymore. So here's the reality. It's kind of like all the food that's good for you really doesn't taste good. Now, we tell ourselves it does. I want to believe a pineapple's as good as a hot fudge sundae, but it's not. So the reason the addictions, the problems, and things grab us is for a season they were what? Pleasurable. And then all of a sudden they cost you a lot. They cost you relationships. You're addicted. You don't enjoy it anymore. And it just causes you pain. That's not what Solomon's talking about. The point of this book isn't just enjoy your life, carpe diem. It's not that. It's not hedonism. But it is something that he's intentional about. So when it comes to Regen over the next few weeks, I want to simply ask you this question. Are you enjoying your life? And why should you? There's this little phrase there in Ecclesiastes. It's called your life under the sun. Everyone say under the sun. If you don't get this, you won't understand Ecclesiastes. Now, this is why this book's not taught a lot. Because we don't focus on just this life a lot. So what does it mean under the sun? Here's probably the best definition I could come up with. This phrase appears only in the book of Ecclesiastes. Doesn't appear anywhere else in the Bible. It parallels Ecclesiastes 1:13 through 14 under heaven, and 8:14 through 16 upon earth. So here is what it means. The phrase under the sun refers to life and physical things here on earth. It refers to your life from birth to death. So here's the thing. Well, what about heaven? The book of Ecclesiastes doesn't deal with heaven. It gives you one glimpse one time, but it doesn't. What about the afterlife, after this life? The book of Ecclesiastes doesn't deal with that. The entire book of Ecclesiastes is literally about your life on this planet right now. I want you to let that sink in. Your life on this planet right now. There's one thing it says in the book. It says, you're going to die like an animal. No, I'm not. I'm going to be resurrected and see Jesus and be in heaven. I get it. But on this planet, when you die, it looks a lot like when an animal dies. Oh, I'm so depressed about that. Solomon says, no, 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 no. You need to learn to do what? Enjoy your life. Now, I'm going to give you the one nerdy thing and then an illustration. And this is just an introduction or kind of a teaser tonight. So before I get this up on the screen, I know it's a lot. I know it's going to sound wordy. Some of you are going to be like, oh, that's awesome. But it comes from a book, Why Does the World Exist? If you ever took a philosophy class, this is straight secular existentialism. It asks the biggest question in the world, and we're not going to deal with this through this, but it's simply, why is there something rather than nothing? Some of you're checking out already, but just wait, okay? Just wait. I know I teach second and third graders every week at church. And I'm saying you're special, you're created by God, and that's true. And I want them to understand that. They're not an accident, all those things. But what I'm going to show you is a secular view. So you're going to say, that's not true, and we don't believe in evolution. Just forget that for a second. I get that. But I want to show you, basically, statistically, how unlikely it is you should have ever existed. Okay? So here we go. They're big numbers. When you go through here, and I don't have the whole thing up here, so I'll read this to you. I might easily have not existed at all. As a member of the human species, I have a particular genetic identity. There are about 30,000 active genes in the human genome. Each of these has at least 2 variants, alleles. So the number of genetically distinct identities the genome can encode is at least 2 raised to the 30,000th power, which roughly equates the number 1 followed by 10,000 zeros. That's the number of potential people allowed by the structure of our DNA. Okay? Now, I'm not going to do the birds and the bees, but here's the deal. In the history of humanity, there's been a lot of them little swimming sperm. And in the history of humanity, there's been a lot of eggs. If you need more description of what I'm talking about, see Jonathan afterwards. But here we go. Now, don't get like evolution or all that. Just hang with me on this. And how many of those potential people have actually existed? Of all those little sperms and all those little eggs in the history of our species, how many never got together and made a what? A human. It is estimated that about 40 billion humans have been born since the emergence of our species. You say, I believe the earth's 10. Don't get caught up. Even if it's not that, it's a lot. Just hang with me, okay? Let's round the number up to 100 billion just to be on the conservative side. This means that the fraction of genetically possible humans who have been born is less than, and it's 0.0000000 to get to 1. Insert about 9,979 extra zeros in the gap. The overwhelming majority of these genetically possible humans are unborn specters, such as the fantastic lottery that I and you had to win in order to shimmer onto the scene. This is contingency with a vengeance. What are you saying? Here's what I'm saying here. The fact you exist, you won the lottery. You won the lottery against statistical improbabilities that are astronomical. I'm saying of all those little sperms and eggs that never went on a date, in the history of our species, you're on purpose. And your DNA is unique. And it is called your life. I might have a problem. I might have a struggle. I might have addiction. I might be broken. I might need help. I might be sad. I might be mourning. I might be a lot of things. But if you get anything else today, I just want to tell you, your existence is so intentional. You are the lottery winner of everything. That's you. Yeah. So here's my big idea, and I'll give you an illustration and I'll be done. And this is the theme of Ecclesiastes. Life is a gift from God. Well, eternity. I'm not talking about eternity. This life on this planet right now. I'll give you this illustration. I showed you a speaker at the beginning, but this is probably the easiest one. And this will be our theme of Ecclesiastes. I called it a tricycle today. My grandson's too old for this now, but I have another grandson who's 1.5, so he'll be getting here in a couple of years for a tricycle. And if there's a Christmas morning when my wife and I, Grandma and Grandpa, bought him a tricycle, we'd give it to him. It'd be a gift. What do I really want to see my grandson? This one's Louis. Lou's his name. Lives in Boston. He's going to be a Patriots fan. I can't help it. Going to love him anyway. Let's say we're visiting up in Boston and he gets that tricycle. Here's the book of Ecclesiastes. That's our gift to him. 3 things we want to see. What might I want him to say to me and Grandma? That's a big part of Ecclesiastes. Here's the gift. Will you look at your Creator and say what? Number 2, what do I want to see him do with that tricycle? I want him to enjoy it. He said thanks. He will worship me by what? Enjoying it. Here's the deal. And this is Ecclesiastes. If he's dragging it, he's not going to enjoy it too much with the wheels up. Hey, let's play catch with it with my brother. Nope, you don't play catch with the tricycle. Is there a right way to ride it? Jeff, I'm not enjoying my life very much. I get it. Sometimes we need to learn how to ride our life. And that's what a book of Ecclesiastes is about. That's what region's about. And here's the last thing, which I always talk about in region. What if he picks the tricycle up and hits his little brother with it? Oh, that's so cute. No. Your life is a gift, and your life is to be enjoyed. But your life is not to hurt others and yourself. And that's that thing called sin. Fair enough? So the question I'll leave you with as we kick off the series in the next few weeks will simply be this. Are you enjoying your what? Your life. Whoever's up next. Thanks, guys.